The pandemic has seen hospitals everywhere filling up, forcing many people to postpone other medical procedures. But one procedure in particular has been booming: cosmetic surgery. With many people in lockdown unable to leave their homes, why are they going under the knife to improve their appearance? Welcome to the COVID-19 special. I'm Rebecca Ritters. Well, it may seem counterintuitive, but it's true. In many parts of the world, the rate of plastic surgery, as well as other non-surgical aesthetic treatments such as Botox, has been soaring during the pandemic. And lockdown measures limited people's contact with each other. It seems many have become more self-conscious about the times they are being seen.
Tanya Chang has undergone Botox treatment on her face. She did it during Taiwan's lockdown, when she wouldn't come into contact with other people. For her, it was a rare opportunity.
I'm in sales and I have to face clients every day at work. It would be very inconvenient to have bruises and swelling on my face after a treatment. Now that everyone wears a mask, I don't need to worry about that. So I am taking advantage of the pandemic.
But that's just one of the reasons for what has been a big boom in cosmetic procedures all over the world. Dermatologists in the US reported a nearly 60% rise in patients seeking aesthetic treatment since the pandemic began. Taking part in video conferences has become routine for many people, and they have become conscious of wrinkles and blemishes. Ultimately, people also want to look good on screen.
Well, for more, I'm joined by Toni Piku. She's a clinical psychologist from Melbourne, Australia, which also happens to be my hometown. Toni, lovely to have you on the program. Tell us, why is cosmetic surgery increasing during the pandemic? It seems counterintuitive.
I think there are so many reasons behind it. Part of it is definitely because of lockdowns and the fact that people couldn't access cosmetic procedures. And we know when something's forbidden and we're not allowed it, it makes us want it more. But I think as well as that, people are spending so much more time on videos, looking at themselves, being able to scrutinize their appearance, and also on social media. With not much else to do, I guess, while we're stuck at home for a lot of the time during the pandemic. And that's causing a lot more body dissatisfaction. And we're also seeing a lot more of cosmetic surgeries available on social media and people publicising it. So I think that's been a large part.
It seems to be a lot more young people, which is also, I would have thought, counterintuitive. And we know, obviously, people do it for the ageing process. But why is it mainly young people that are seeking treatment now?
Yeah, well, I think touching on the fact that social media has played such a big role in this uptick in interest in cosmetic procedures during the pandemic. We know that young people in particular live a lot of their lives online. And when they're spending so much time on social media, it's often promoting this sometimes distorted or unrealistic standard of beauty that they're then trying to attain. And again, they're exposed to it. They're exposed to all these cosmetic procedures, people videoing and filming their surgeries and putting them online. And I think that's increasing their interest in getting it done. But also we have people who had more disposable income available to them during the pandemic because they weren't spending it necessarily on travel or leisure. And so now they've got this money lying around that they can then put towards a cosmetic surgery that they might not have been able to afford previously.
What kind of global trends are we seeing? Is this something that's happening more in the West, or, is it really popular in the US or Australia? Or, what are the trends you're seeing there?
Yeah, I think we've seen it happening around the world. I've seen lots of research and articles popping up from across the globe, everyone reporting increased interest in cosmetic procedures, and those are invasive and non-invasive as well. So we still see that the most popular are the non-invasive procedures, like the Botox and the dermal fillers. But during the pandemic, there's also been a massive increase in body contouring. So things like the liposuction and tummy tuck. I think because as people's bodies might have been changing during the pandemic, they're becoming more self-conscious and wanting to get some of those procedures done as well.
I've also seen lots of pages on social media, on Instagram, for instance, debunking the before and after photos and that kind of thing. Do you think there could be a pendulum swing the other way, a sort of an anti-plastic surgery wave on social media as well?
If there is one, it's definitely a lot quieter, unless we definitely don't see it as much. But I think there's a growing wave of body positivity influencers, people who are promoting body acceptance. And from time to time, they will post images like that, showing the editing of photos and the setting up of before and after photos, which I think does help to give people a bit more of a critical lens of what they might be seeing on social media.
People are kind of relying on these regular beauty treatments to boost self-esteem, but do they actually help psychologically? Are they beneficial? Do people feel better after having plastic surgery?
Yeah, it's a great question. And for the vast majority of people, they really do. So the research tells us that about 80% of people who get cosmetic procedures or surgeries done are really happy with the results. And they report that, they feel better about that particular body part that they had treated, and that it can boost their self-esteem. The thing is, though, that there's another 20% of people who might be less satisfied with the results and sometimes even experience negative outcomes. And they're usually people like younger adults, so those in like their early 20s or even in their teens getting cosmetic procedures done. And also people with significant mental health issues and particular body dysmorphic disorder, where they might not have an accurate perception of what they really look like. And so for those people, they actually tend to not do so well with cosmetic procedures, and they don't report the same benefits. But for a lot of people, they do find that it boosts their self-esteem.
And so just before we finish up, do you think there's a direct link between COVID-19 and the rise in plastic surgery? Or is it just a coincidence and social media?
No, I think that definitely video calls were something that we might have done time to time before the pandemic, but that's been a huge part of our lives just because of COVID. And I think we're definitely seeing the Zoom boom or Zoom dysmorphia rising. That's leading to that greater interest in cosmetic procedures. And also people are struggling a lot more mentally. And we know when they're more anxious or more depressed that can also lead to more body image concerns. And so I think those things are very uniquely because of the COVID-19 pandemic at the moment that we've seen this increase in interest in cosmetic surgery as well.
All right, clinical psychologist Tony Pick, who's speaking to us from Melbourne, Australia. Thanks very much. So how long could the cosmetic surgery boom go on for? Here's our science correspondent Derek Williams to answer one of your questions.
How long do most pandemics last?
To make any predictions about how the COVID-19 pandemic could end, it makes sense to look at past pandemics, since they provide data that could potentially help us predict how long the current one might last. Experts trying to do that tend to focus on the 4 officially recognized respiratory disease pandemics that have occurred in the last 100 years, which were all driven by an old enemy of humanity, influenza. The most recent one was in 2009, when a novel flu strain, commonly called the swine flu, swept the globe, infecting by some estimates up to 1 in 5 people on the planet. Top-end guesses say it might have caused close to 600,000 deaths in the 14 or so months that it raged. The swine flu pandemic was shorter than a flu pandemic in 1968, often called the Hong Kong flu. It was caused by a strain that killed at least 1 million people worldwide, possibly many more. All in all, it lasted a little less than 2 years. A decade before that, a strain that became widely known as the Asian flu killed a similar number of people in the late 1950s. Now, what was really interesting about that pandemic was that it was the first where vaccines played a key role. It's thought that their quick development and distribution saved potentially hundreds of thousands of lives. Finally, there was the granddaddy of all modern flu pandemics, the one that devastated the planet at the end of the First World War, starting in around 1918. It's viewed as the most severe pandemic in recent history. That flu strain infected, we think, around 1/3 of the world's population and killed at least 50 million people over the course of around 3 years. So to sum it up, those recent pandemics lasted between around a year and 3 years, but they were, of course, caused by flu viruses, not coronaviruses. So trying to draw parallels with the current pandemic, experts say, is a tenuous move at best.
And finally, classical music has a long history here in Germany, but the pandemic has made it difficult to stage concerts. So one orchestra in the city of Dresden treated music lovers to a different kind of symphony. Take a look.
A concert like no other. The banks of the Elbe River played host to a most unusual melody. A steamboat symphony. German engineering with a Baroque twist. A noteworthy experience for the audience. I'm here because I think the project is great. It's extraordinary, and after this period of COVID-19, which isn't over, it's finally a little glimmer of hope, and it's good for the heart and the soul. A chance to blow off some steam while social distancing.
Well, that's our show for today. If you'd like more on any of our stories, you'll find that and much more on our website, dw.com/COVID-19. We'll be back at the same time next week. Hope you can join us then. Thanks for watching.